Do you ever feel like you're just fading? Like life has slowed down to a crawl, and the vibrant person you once were is slowly being replaced by aches, fatigue, and a general sense of, what's the point? Maybe you look in the mirror and barely recognize the tired eyes staring back. That was me. Exactly. Not too long ago. At the age of 63, I felt utterly hopeless. The world seemed to be moving on, full of energy and purpose, while I felt stuck, adrift, and frankly, a little bit useless. Simple tasks felt monumental. Joy seemed distant, and the future just looked like more of the same decline. It was a truly painful reality to face, feeling like the best years were definitely behind me, and all that was left was managing the slow slide into, well, I didn't even want to think about it. But something shifted. Something pretty profound happened that pulled me out of that slump and completely changed my perspective and my reality. It wasn't a magic pill or a sudden miracle. It was a series of small, consistent changes, things I stumbled upon that, when put together, created a powerful transformation. In this video, I want to share exactly what those things were: simple habits, ways of thinking, and even some focus on nutrition that helped me regain energy, clarity, and a genuine excitement for life again. These aren't complicated or expensive, they're accessible. And I truly believe they can help you too, if you're feeling anything like I was. So please, stick with me. Watch to the end, because I'm going to share something that might just surprise you about how much potential you still have at this stage of life. Let's start with the very first thing that began to chip away at that feeling of hopelessness. It wasn't a physical change initially, but a mental one. I realized I had fallen into a trap of negative thinking, constantly focusing on what I had lost: my youthful vigor, my career identity, perhaps even loved ones. I was living in the past or dreading the future, and that left no room for being present, for finding joy. Now, the first habit I intentionally started was cultivating a practice of gratitude. It sounds simple, almost cliché. I know. But bear with me. Every morning, before I even got out of bed, I would think of 3 things I was genuinely grateful for. It could be the warmth of the blankets, the sound of birds outside, the fact that I had a roof over my head, or even just the taste of my morning tea. At first, it felt forced, like I was just going through the motions. My mind would immediately try to pull me back to my worries or complaints. But I persisted. I read somewhere that consistency is key, like building a muscle. The more you practice gratitude, the easier it becomes to find things to be thankful for, and the less power negative thoughts have over you. I started noticing small things throughout the day. The way the light hit the leaves on a tree, a kind word from a stranger, the comfort of a favorite chair. It wasn't about ignoring the difficult parts of life, but about consciously balancing them by acknowledging the good. This simple practice, done consistently, started to subtly shift my perspective. It was like someone had turned on a dim light in a very dark room. It didn't make the room fully bright immediately, but it showed me there was light. There was more than just darkness. Along with this shift in mindset, I realized how sedentary I had become. My body felt stiff and achy, and I had convinced myself that this was just part of getting older. I avoided movement because it felt uncomfortable or tiring, but the second change I embraced was introducing gentle movement back into my life. I didn't start running marathons. Goodness, no. I started with walking. Not a power walk, not a race, but a slow, mindful walk around my neighborhood. Initially, it was just 10 or 15 minutes. The key was consistency, doing it almost every day. As I walked, I tried to apply that gratitude practice, noticing the flowers, the sky, the architecture of the houses. It wasn't just about moving my body. It was about engaging my senses and being present in the moment. Slowly, very slowly, those aches started to lessen a little. My joints felt less stiff. My energy levels, surprisingly, began to inch upwards. Not dramatically, but enough for me to notice. Walking outside also connected me to the world again. I'd see neighbors, wave, sometimes even stop for a brief chat. It was a small form of social interaction that broke the isolation I had retreated into. I learned that movement didn't have to be strenuous exercise. It could be gentle, enjoyable, and consistent. I added some simple stretching exercises I found online. Just a few minutes in the morning. Nothing complex. Just enough to help my body feel a little more open and less resistant to motion. These small, consistent steps, gratitude and gentle movement, started to build a foundation. They weren't cures, but they were the first cracks in the wall of hopelessness I had built around myself. They showed me that I wasn't entirely powerless, that I could take small actions that had a positive impact, however subtle it felt at the time. They paved the way for trying other things related to what I was putting into my body. Now that I had started to work on my mindset and introduced some gentle movement, I began to look at my diet. Honestly, for years, my eating habits had been less than ideal. Convenience often won over nutrition, and I wasn't really paying attention to how different foods made me feel. I often felt sluggish. My digestion wasn't great, and I'd have energy crashes throughout the day. I realized that fueling my body poorly was only contributing to my overall feeling of being run down and, yes, hopeless. I wasn't ready for a drastic overhaul, but I decided to focus on adding more whole, unprocessed foods. I started with something simple, increasing my intake of fruits and vegetables. I made an effort to have a piece of fruit with breakfast, add a handful of greens to my lunch, and make sure half my dinner plate was filled with colorful vegetables. It wasn't about deprivation, it was about addition. Adding nutrients meant less room and less craving for the less healthy options naturally. I also started paying more attention to hydration. I had probably been mildly dehydrated for years without realizing it. I got myself a nice water bottle and made a conscious effort to sip from it throughout the day. It sounds incredibly simple, but being properly hydrated made a surprising difference in my energy levels and even seemed to help with those little aches and pains. Another area I focused on, which felt particularly challenging at first, was incorporating more fiber into my diet. As you get older, digestion can become a real issue, and it was certainly contributing to my discomfort and low energy. I started adding things like a tablespoon of chia seeds or ground flax seeds to my yogurt or smoothie in the morning. I swapped white bread for whole grain bread and tried to include lentils or beans in my meals a few times a week. Again, it was about gradual changes, not sudden, overwhelming ones. These small shifts in what I ate and drank didn't produce overnight miracles, but cumulatively, they started to make a difference. I felt less bloated. My energy seemed a bit more stable throughout the day, and I generally felt lighter and less weighed down. It proved to me that nourishing my body with the right things really did matter, and it gave me another area where I felt empowered to take control. It wasn't just about battling symptoms. It was about building a foundation for better health and more vitality. And as I started to feel physically a little better, it positively impacted my mental state, making that gratitude practice feel even more genuine. It was like these pieces were starting to connect and reinforce each other, creating a positive feedback loop instead of the negative one I had been stuck in. Feeling even slightly better physically gave me more motivation to keep up with the gratitude and the walking. And feeling mentally a little brighter made it easier to make healthier food choices. It was a slow process, but the momentum was building. Next, I tackled something that had been a major problem for me for years without me fully acknowledging its impact. Continuing on this path of making small, intentional changes, I had to confront my terrible sleep habits. For as long as I could remember, I had struggled with sleep, falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up feeling utterly unrested. I had accepted it as just how I sleep, or another unwelcome part of getting older. But the constant fatigue was a huge contributor to my feeling of hopelessness. When you're exhausted, everything feels harder, more overwhelming. And joy is the last thing you can muster. I decided to finally take sleep hygiene seriously. The first thing I did was establish a consistent sleep schedule, even on weekends. This was tough initially. Retraining my body clock. I aimed to go to bed and wake up around the same time every day. This regularity really helped signal to my body when it was time to rest. Next, I looked at my bedtime routine. I used to just stay up until I felt absolutely ready to drop, often watching TV or scrolling on my phone right until I turned off the light. I learned how much blue light from screens interferes with melatonin production, the hormone that helps you sleep. So, I started winding down about an hour before bed. I'd switch off the TV and put my phone away. Instead, I'd read a physical book, listen to quiet music, or do some gentle stretching. I also tried taking a warm bath with Epsom salts, which I found incredibly relaxing. Creating this buffer zone between the busyness of the day and sleep was a game changer. It allowed my mind to quiet down instead of racing with the day's thoughts or anxieties. I also paid attention to my sleep environment. I made sure my bedroom was dark, quiet, and cool. I invested in some blackout curtains and made sure any blinking lights from electronics were covered. Small things, but they made a difference in minimizing disturbances during the night. I learned to avoid caffeine in the late afternoon and evening, and I tried not to eat a heavy meal right before bed. If I did wake up in the middle of the night and couldn't fall back asleep after 15-20 minutes, I wouldn't just lie there tossing and turning and getting frustrated. I'd get up quietly, go to another room, read for a little while in dim light, and only go back to bed when I felt genuinely sleepy again. This broke the association of my bed with frustration and wakefulness. Improving my sleep didn't happen overnight. No pun intended. There were still nights when I struggled, but the consistent effort slowly started to pay off. I began to have more nights where I slept through, or at least woke up fewer times, and the impact on my daytime energy and mood was profound. When I wasn't constantly battling fatigue, I had more mental clarity, more physical stamina for my walks, and more emotional resilience to handle everyday challenges. Feeling more rested directly combated that feeling of being worn down and hopeless. It gave me back a significant piece of my ability to engage with life. As I started feeling better physically and mentally, I noticed another area where I had become isolated. My social connections had dwindled. Retirement, people moving away, or just the inertia of staying home had left me feeling quite alone. Loneliness is a huge contributor to feeling hopeless, and I hadn't realized how much it was affecting me. So, the next step was consciously trying to reconnect and build new connections. This felt intimidating at first. I'm not naturally an extrovert, but I started small. I made an effort to chat with people I encountered during my day. The cashier at the grocery store, the person walking their dog in the park, a neighbor tending their garden. Simple, brief interactions, but they were a start. Then I looked for more structured ways to connect. I thought about things I used to enjoy or things I was curious about. I found a local walking group. Perfect. As it combined my new habit with social interaction, I also joined a book club at the local library. These activities provided opportunities to be around others who shared a common interest. It wasn't about becoming best friends with everyone, but about being part of a community. About having regular interactions and conversations beyond just necessary errands. Sharing a laugh, discussing a book, or simply walking alongside others made me feel less alone in the world. It opened up opportunities for deeper friendships to develop naturally over time. But even the casual connections made a significant difference. Feeling connected to others provides support, a sense of belonging, and reminds you that you are seen and valued. It broke the cycle of internalizing everything and feeling like I was facing my challenges completely alone. Sharing experiences, thoughts, And even just mundane details of the day with others lightened the load and brought back some much-needed lightness and laughter into my life. This step felt vulnerable initially, putting myself out there. But the rewards in terms of combating hopelessness and boosting my mood were immense. It's easy to retreat when you feel down, but forcing myself to step out, even just a little, was crucial for my recovery. These steps, improving sleep and reconnecting socially, further solidified the progress I was making. They built upon the foundation of gratitude, movement, and nutrition, creating a more holistic sense of well-being. It wasn't just about fixing one thing. It was about nurturing multiple aspects of my life. So, where did all this lead? Looking back at the person I was at 63, feeling lost and without hope, it's remarkable to see the transformation. It didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't a single magic bullet. It was the combination of these seemingly small, deliberate choices and habits. It started with shifting my mindset through gratitude, actively choosing to see the good things, no matter how small. This paved the way for introducing gentle, consistent movement like walking and stretching, which helped my body feel less like a burden and more capable. Then, I focused on nourishing my body from the inside out by prioritizing whole foods, increasing fiber, and staying hydrated, which improved my energy and digestion. Tackling my long-standing sleep issues through better hygiene finally allowed my body and mind to properly rest and recover, dramatically boosting my resilience and mood. And finally, intentionally breaking isolation and reconnecting with others provided vital social support and a sense of belonging. It's not about being perfect. Some days are still harder than others. There are days when the old aches flare up, or I don't sleep as well, or I just feel a bit down. But the difference now is that I have tools. I have practices that I can return to. I know that a difficult day doesn't mean I'm sliding back into that abyss of hopelessness. It just means it's a difficult day, and I can use the strategies I've learned to help myself navigate it. I return to my gratitude practice, reminding myself of what is still good. I make sure I get my walk in, even if it's a shorter one. I pay extra attention to what I'm eating and drinking, and I prioritize getting a good night's sleep that night. I reach out to a friend or family member for a chat. These habits are like anchors in a storm. They help me stay grounded when things feel turbulent. Remember, small changes really can make a big difference to your health and happiness, especially as you get older. It's not about turning back the clock or trying to be someone you're not. It's about honoring where you are right now and finding ways to live as fully and vibrantly as possible with what you have. It's about proving to yourself that age is not a sentence of decline, but just another chapter with its own potential for growth, joy, and purpose. You don't have to accept feeling hopeless or just managing. You have the power to make changes that can significantly improve your quality of life. If anything I've shared resonates with you, if you felt that feeling of fading or hopelessness, I really encourage you to pick just one or two of these things and give them a try. Start small. Be consistent. Be patient and kind to yourself. And see what happens. You might be surprised at the positive ripple effect it creates in your life. I'd love to hear about your own experiences. Have you found things that have helped you overcome challenging times or feelings of hopelessness later in life? Share your thoughts and tips in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if you found this video helpful or encouraging, please give it a thumbs up. That tells me I'm on the right track and helps others find this content. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel. I plan to share more about the simple things that have helped me and that I believe can help you too. To live your best life at every age, don't let age define you or limit you. There is still so much life to live, so much to explore, and so much joy to be found. Go out there and live your best life, starting today.